Arnold Toynbee's A Study of History, published between 1934 and 1961 in 12 volumes, represents one of the most ambitious attempts at a philosophical understanding of human history. Toynbee, a British historian and philosopher, sought to identify patterns that govern the life, growth, and decline of civilizations. His work combines elements of sociology, philosophy of history, anthropology, and comparative religion, offering a systematic framework for analyzing historical processes. The core concept: civilization as an organism. Toynbee conceptualizes civilizations as living organisms, emphasizing their cyclical nature and internal mechanisms of development. Each civilization emerges in response to external challenges and internal contradictions. He divides historical development into the stages of genesis, growth, maturity, and decline. These stages are not rigidly fixed but demonstrate general patterns. A civilization flourishes when it successfully responds to challenges and begins to decay when it loses its ability to adapt. Genesis of civilizations. According to Toynbee, civilizations arise as a reaction to difficulties. External challenges, such as resource scarcity, climatic changes, demographic pressures, or military threats, stimulate creative activity within society. At this stage, creative minorities emerge, groups of people capable of innovative thinking and leadership guiding their societies forward. These creative minorities define the unique character of a civilization, establish its institutions, and shape its cultural norms. Growth and development. If a civilization successfully meets challenges, it enters a growth phase. During this period, state structures are formed, laws are codified, social and economic institutions are strengthened, and art, philosophy, and science flourish. Toynbee emphasizes that internal diversity and cultural flexibility help consolidate civilizations. Growth is often accompanied by the expansion of influence over neighboring societies and the creation of complex social and economic networks. Maturity and crisis. Civilizational maturity, Toynbee argues, is characterized by a high degree of organization and institutionalization. Yet this stage also brings internal challenges: bureaucratization, loss of creative energy, social inequality, moral decay, and spiritual decline. Internal conflicts and the inability to adapt to new conditions weaken the society. Toynbee notes that civilizations often respond to crises with rigid and conservative strategies, which accelerate the decline process. Decline of civilizations. Toynbee does not attribute civilizational collapse solely to external catastrophes or invasions by barbarians. The primary cause lies in internal degeneration and the elite's inability to adapt to changing circumstances. He introduces the concept of internal deserts, where the spiritual, moral, and cultural energy of society becomes depleted. In this state, civilizations lose their creative vitality and become vulnerable to external pressures. Historically, decline manifests in the disintegration of political authority, social and economic structures, the loss of cultural identity, and moral deterioration. The role of creative minorities. A key idea in Toynbee's theory is the role of creative minorities throughout the life cycle of a civilization. These groups drive innovation, manage crises, and set the direction of cultural development. However, as civilizations mature, creative minorities often lose their dynamism, transforming into dominant minorities that seek to preserve power and maintain the status quo while suppressing new ideas. This transformation frequently marks the onset of stagnation and eventual decline. The influence of external challenges. While Toynbee emphasizes internal mechanisms, he also recognizes the importance of external factors. Conflicts with neighboring societies, migrations, epidemics, and climate shifts can accelerate crises, but they are not the primary cause of collapse. History demonstrates that strong civilizations can adapt and turn external challenges into opportunities for further development, whereas weak or already weakened structures succumb to destruction. The cyclical nature of history. Unlike the linear conception of history prevalent in the 19th century, Toynbee proposes a model of cyclical dynamics. Civilizations arise, develop, and inevitably decline, but the process is not predetermined or precisely repetitive. Each cycle is unique, shaped by specific conditions and the creative responses of societies. Yet, a certain regularity emerges. Successful adaptation to challenges leads to flourishing, while failure to adapt results in degeneration. Comparison with other historical theories. Toynbee contrasts his approach with the Marxist perspective, which explains societal decline primarily through economic contradictions, and with materialist theories that focus on social and technological factors. He emphasizes that spiritual and cultural dimensions, moral and religious values, and the creative energy of minorities play roles no less important than economic conditions in the fate of civilizations. Thus, Toynbee offers a more comprehensive, multi-layered approach to understanding history. Historical examples. Toynbee analyzes dozens of civilizations, including ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, China, and Indian societies. He demonstrates how each passed through stages of growth, maturity, and decline, highlighting the uniqueness of each path while identifying recurring patterns. For instance, the fall of the Roman Empire is linked not only to external invasions by barbarian tribes, but also to internal exhaustion of creative energy, bureaucratization, and moral decay. Criticism and legacy. Toynbee's ideas provoked both interest and criticism. Critics point to the generalization and subjective nature of his analysis, his attempt to detect universal laws within historical complexity, and insufficient attention to economic and social factors. Nevertheless, the concept of civilizations as organisms and the emphasis on spiritual and cultural dynamics have had a lasting influence on historiography and comparative civilization studies. His work inspired later thinkers, including Samuel Huntington, Karl Jaspers, and other philosophers of history. Contemporary relevance today, a study of history is seen less as a precise scientific theory than as a philosophical and methodological framework for analyzing civilizations. Toynbee's ideas highlight that the rise and fall of societies are not determined solely by economic laws or military power, but are heavily influenced by spiritual, cultural, and moral adaptability. In an era of globalization and rapid technological change, Toynbee's framework encourages reflection on the sustainability of modern civilizations and the role internal challenges may play in shaping their future. Conclusion. In A Study of History, Arnold Toynbee presents a comprehensive vision of historical processes based on the cyclical development of civilizations and the role of human creative energy. His analysis demonstrates that history is not only a struggle for resources and power, but also a spiritual and cultural process determined by a society's ability to respond to challenges. Toynbee's theory remains relevant, allowing contemporary and future social transformations to be examined through the lens of growth, maturity, and decline. His work integrates philosophy, history, and sociology, providing profound insight into how societies construct and deconstruct their own civilizational structures.